In Educare Finance module, basically every management schematics has a dashboard, and that dashboard is a basic report instance. For instance, when we're looking at the invoice center, we see receipts for today, this week, this month, this year, and we can always click on any of these to get the Excel sheet of that particular receipt. That's already a report. If we scroll down to the account statement, we can filter from a particular, we can filter a particular date range, even select the payment status and select the level or year group that we are interested in, and then select the class of interest or arm of interest. We can even select the gender of interest and then either download the statement or get a bulk invoice overview. And for the sake of clarity, we have cleaned up the database. And so, for us to see the report in its full schematics, we go to Reports menu, which harbors everything concerning the account reporting, including the account head reports, sales invoice report, general accounts, and every other thing. In fact, you can even see the financial reports such as trial balance, income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow. All those you find in the report schematics directly. And then also we have the inventory reporting, which will give you access to the inventory report, customer ledger report, purchase invoice, and suppliers report. So all that is contained in the reports menu right here. So without further ado, let's go straight into seeing what these reports look like. Previously, we create an invoice di- directly from here by going to an individual account, clicking on bills, creating a bill, and then submitting it, right? Now let's see what it looks like when we do just that. We will see this particular invoice now. First of all, we should be able to view the invoice on click, which you can see right here. And then we should be able to also publish, retrieve, and other things. So right now I'm going to just dismiss this, and then we go over to the dashboard. So on the dashboard already, this is a report. It shows you your open invoices and your current debt. But that's not all. If we go to our general ledger, we'll see that this invoice has been posted as an account receivable. The debit has already reflected in accounts receivable, and the credit has reflected in the school fee. This school fee, remember, is the account chart that is currently held by the invoice, and we see that setup. Of course, we saw all that in our account head. So this is school fees for primary school, for instance. This is school primary fees. And you can see that the chart of account that harbors it is the school fee chart of account, which is the reason why when this invoice was generated in the general ledger, you see the credit leg in the school fees pro forma. Now, when this invoice is paid, what do we expect to happen? There will be nothing concerning school fees anymore. Everything will be between receivable and the receiving bank. So the credit will cancel the receivables, and then the debit will go to the bank of interest, right? Let's see if that is true. But before we do that, even from where we are currently, if we go over to reports and click on account heads reports, then we will see immediately that our income and our revenue has a fees revenue of 40,000 naira automatically, while our asset has a cash and cash equivalent of 40,000 naira debit, which is actually accounts receivable. So we see all that. In fact, to even confirm whether this so far, whether we are in the right track, we can just click on our trial balance and check what it tells us at the bottom. So the balance on deposit on the credit is the same thing as the balance on the debit. So far we have 40,000 naira in our trial balance. Now let's go ahead and clear this bill by let's do it manually. Let's do manual clear, that's manual reconciliation. So back to invoicing center, select the primary fees, and then click on next. This is the bill. So I'm assuming I'm paying for it once using a bank, and this time around selecting the bank. This is with the assumption that the person paid manually, that's paid to the bank, and now we are reconciling it. This is it. So you select the date, and we've seen all these ones before now, so I'm not wasting time on that. So if this payment is confirmed, let's check the report once again. So again, if we go to general ledger, we'll see that the debit has reflected in the Wema Bank, while the credit has reflected in the accounts receivable, thereby canceling the receivable debit. And if we go to reports, starting with the trial balance, again, we will see that nothing really has changed. Our 40,000 is still our 40,000. And of course, the receivables, the banks and everything has already reflected. And if we go to our account heads report, again, revenue is still 40,000. Expenditure, nothing. Asset, that is our bank, has received 40,000, which is in the cancellation of accounts receivable. So if we open this up, we'll find that money in Wema Bank right here, which is where it was debited. Now, let's also see other sources of income within our system before we review expenditure. So, another way we have income coming into the system is via sales monitor, service invoices, SPA, right? So, let's see all of them. So, from sales monitor, which is more like making sales using terminal, right? If we go to our point of sale, hoping that it is active, yes, and we make a sale of one item to maybe one of the customers. Let's sell to Daniel, and we sell an item of this. Okay, sorry, we have to start a deal. Select Daniel, and then we sell this item. This is just 1,500. If we choose to pay, if we choose again, okay, this time around, let's use cash. So if this person is paying with cash, we expect that an invoice has been raised, right? But that invoice, because it's a store account, we do not have it recorded until this payment is completed because this is a quick cash, like a quick checkout. So again, click on pay, complete payment. And if you want to print, you're free. We've seen all these ones before now. So if we go back to our list and check our general ledger, we will see a payment to sales. First of all, cash, debit, and sales, which is the chart of account that receives the payment for invoice store, 1,055. Meanwhile, at the same time, because this is a store invoice, because this is an inventory schematics, the cost of sales as a result of that is the cost price for this particular sale, checkout was 942 according to the system, the item in question. You can see it automatically, the cost of sale has been expended, and of course it reflects on the inventory as a credit. So we see that immediately, right? And if we also go to reports, that's the full report itself, and check out the trial balance, again, we will see that the trial balance when it loads up has increased by 1,550, 1,055 naira on both credit and debit sides. And then if we make a payment, if we raise an invoice, a service invoice using the service invoices pro forma, just raising an invoice directly for a customer, maybe a customer that we served, and maybe when we raise this invoice, just generate the invoice, whether we published it or not. Well, let's publish this one. So to publish, I just click on publish, and whether I want to send mail or not, just publish. And of course, this one will go through, and when it does, good. Invoice published successfully, good. And then again, if you want to collect it from here, it's fine. If you don't want to, it's still fine. But for now, I'm going to leave this up. But because we published this invoice, let's also check if it reports in the general ledger. Here we go. We have it right there. Bello Haman, accounts receivable, and service income is the creditor this time around. That is the revenue account that it will be credited to. 10,000 naira. We can see that there. So let's see that that payment reflect. So it's service invoices, one invoice generated. Again, like I said, every dashboard carries its own pro forma of reporting. And as you can see, there is a chart here that shows you that you have generated a 10,000 naira invoice as of December, and total unpaid is 10,000 naira. That's on the that's on services invoices, that's service invoices. And we can actually see that invoice by just clicking on pending, which opens it up here. So let's attempt to pay for this one directly from here. So again, this is online payment. This is assuming that you sent it to the person and the person is meant to pay for it directly. So get the account number. So if the payment is confirmed and it returns to our system, the invoice is marked as paid. Now that the payment is completed, let's again check the invoice itself. Of course, it's been reflected. And then let's check the the dashboard. This is the dashboard. You can see everything has been paid for. And then let's check our general ledger. We see a posting of accounts receivable credit right there, and Wema Bank, which is the account that received the debit. You can see that here. Okay, so the that's about invoice, service invoice. The same thing with spa services. Again, just to confirm, if we go over to spa services and we have any invoice to raise, it's basically the same thing as service invoices. Now let's look at the expenditure part. For the expenditure part, we raise a budget, and if we add up the items that take up the categories, the contents of this budget, and save it, and activate it as usual, already the list of budgets has its own analysis already, which is also a report schematics. So we can see the budget summary report, which shows you the total that has been budgeted and the actual spending. At the initial instance, you can see that both the budget itself, that's the budgeted amount, and the balance are basically the same thing. And you can export this by just clicking download and get it in this pro forma, and it's just an Excel sheet that shows you the current status of the budget items. Now, when you start expending from it by using the requisitions, again, let me reiterate, let me emphasize, requisitions only come from budget management. If you don't have a budget for any particular expenditure, then you can use direct posting to post that expenditure. But every expenditure that you want to run directly from the management, budget management, will run directly from requisitions. So this is us now setting up requisitions, and I'll simply make a feeding entry and set the amount to be 20,000, and then choose feeding right now. So food and drinks and refreshment, add to list, submit. When this has been submitted and you go through the process of approval and authorization, let's see whether it reflects in our expenditure report. Of course, for you to be able to authorize, you need to use your authorization code, which usually gets sent to your inbox. So let's have this authorized from expenditure, and then give it our authorization code and authorize. Okay, so the authorization went through, that's the payout. Let's see where it reflects in our finance report. So again, if we go to general ledger, we should find it there. Good. Right there, requisition, which the expenditure went to feeding and entertainment expenses, while the credit came from Zenith Bank. As for expenditure that you don't have covered within the budget that you have made for the period, you can use direct post, like I mentioned previously, especially when you had to do with expense management. And this is expenditure posting. That's the one that you can use to post that. So assume that the expenditure has been filled and posted, like we have previously done. Upon submission, let's see where it reflects when we approve it. So for now, we'll just go ahead and approve the one that we have filled in. And if it is successful, let's check it out on our reports, starting from general ledger. And on the general ledger, we can see this posting right here. Diesel expenses is the debit account, while Zenith Bank is the credit account, direct posting expenditure. And if we go to reports, again, I always say let's start from the trial balance and be sure that our debits and credits are balanced before we can even start tracing it in every other account. One thing is clear: if your trial balance balances on both on both credit and debit side of the account, then most likely, most definitely, your accounting every other statement will be correct. So if we go to balance sheet, we expect it to be balanced. We expect the bank and everything to be whatever we see within those balance sheet and income statement and others will definitely be correct. Even when we spend to or from petty cash, we get exactly the same outcome. So this debit, if we check our general ledger, we'll find it right there. Petty cash debit from Wema Bank credit. And if we spend from petty cash, upon approval, if we check our ledger again, we'll see basically the same effect. Diesel expenses debit and petty cash credit. So apart from seeing it in the ledger, again, petty cash having its own dashboard will also be able to give you the debit and the credit side of things. So even payroll, when processed, in fact, let's take the liberty of cleaning up the account and then maybe so that we can see the ledger fresh again. So, okay, the whole thing has been cleaned up. So again, our ledger is empty. Let's have our account number, the expenditure account, initialized with an opening balance of 1 million. And let's say the opening date is today. Okay, so if we go back to payroll and initialize for the month of December, let's approve for just one personnel. If we check the payslip, we see that it contains all the nitty-gritties, basic salary, pension, pay as you earn, and everything has been calculated, and the amount to be paid is available. So let's see where pension and pay as you earn, as well as the general salary schematics will reflect in the general ledger. So we go ahead with process, and for the sake of being fast, for for sake of time, let's use offline bank. And let's make this payment by processing it. Okay, so now that it's been processed, let's see it in the ledger. All right, so the first thing is the salary leaves with 220,000 naira. That is the total payable. That is the total cost to company. But out of the 220,000 naira, Zenith Bank has only a withdrawal of 165,000 naira, while the rest of the credits go to accrued pension from the individual, accrued pension from the company, and accrued withholding tax, again from the salary. And to be certain that this is correct, let's check our balance sheet, our trial balance. So if we go to our trial balance, then what we have on the debit side is exactly what we have on the credit side. Okay. Thank you very much for exploring the Educare Module user guide. We've walked you through the essentials of setup, management, and reporting, ensuring you are equipped to get the most out of this powerful system. From initial configuration to day to day operations and even generating insightful reports. And if you still have questions or you need further assistance, feel free to reach out to our support team or explore additional resources in the Help Center. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more guides.